2017, and Talia Bayoki, who's my co-author.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Savannah Guthrie.
Good morning. As we come on the air, we've got breaking news from the White House. The president is about to address the nation. We expect he will announce a ban on Russian oil imports into the U.S. Lawmakers from both parties have been pressuring the administration in recent days to take that very step as a new way to punish Vladimir Putin and Russia over the war in Ukraine. Of course, a lot of Americans will recognize right away that this will impact gas prices, which are already skyrocketing. The national average hit an all-time dollar high overnight, $4.17 a gallon. That's up since it was $3.61 just a week ago. So we're seeing the gas prices already on the rise, and that is only going in one direction. Let's bring in our chief White House correspondent, Kristen Welker. The president clearly under pressure, not just from Ukrainian officials, but from lawmakers in both parties. And we're also hearing this morning that the UK and the EU are also taking some steps.
They are, Savannah, that's right. To that last point first, the UK and EU announcing that they are going to phase out Russian oil over time. What President Biden is announcing is a ban on Russian oil. These are some of the most punitive measures that we will have seen from the United States and from its European allies to date, because this really is going to hit at the heart of Russia's economy. But it does come against that backdrop, Savannah, that you mentioned, mounting pressure from Republicans and also Democrats, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who said it is time to ban Russian oil. We know that there is legislation pending in Congress as well. But in this instance, the president is going to take this step unilaterally without the support of Congress. What will the impact be on Americans? That's the
question. Today, I'm announcing the United States is targeting the main artery of Russia's economy. We're banning all imports of Russian oil and gas and energy. That means Russian oil will no longer be acceptable at U.S. ports, and the American people will deal another powerful blow to Putin's war machine. This is a move that has strong bipartisan support in Congress and, I believe, in the country. Americans have rallied to support the Ukrainian people and made it clear we will not be part of subsidizing Putin's war. We made this decision in close consultation with our allies and our partners around the world, particularly in Europe, because a united response to Putin's aggression has been my overriding focus, to keep all NATO and all of the EU and our allies totally united. We're moving forward with this ban, understanding that many of our European allies and partners may not be in a position to join us. The United States produces far more oil domestically than all the European countries combined. In fact, we're a net exporter of energy. So we can take this step when others cannot. But we're working closely with Europe and our partners to develop a long-term strategy to reduce their dependence on Russian energy as well. Our teams are actively discussing how to make this happen, and today we remain united. We remain united in our purpose to keep pressure mounting on Putin and his war machine. This is a step that we're taking to inflict further pain on Putin, but there will be cost as well here in the United States. I said I would level with the American people from the beginning. And when I first spoke to this, I said defending freedom is going to cost. It's going to cost us as well in the United States. Republicans and Democrats understand that. Republicans and Democrats alike have been clear that we must do this. Over the last week, I've spoken with President Zelensky several times to hear from him about the situation on the ground and to consult and continue to consult with our European allies and about U.S. support for Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. Thus far, we've provided more than $1 billion in security assistance to Ukraine. Shipments of defensive weapons are arriving in Ukraine every day from the United States, and we, the United States, are the ones coordinating the delivery of our allies and partners of similar weapons, from Germany to Finland to the Netherlands. We're working that out. We're also providing humanitarian support for the Ukrainian people, both those still in Ukraine and those who have fled safely to a neighboring country. We're working with humanitarian organizations to surge tens of thousands of tons of food, water, and medical supplies into Ukraine, and with more on the way. Over the weekend, I sent Secretary Blinken to visit the border between Poland and Ukraine and to Moldova to see what the situation was firsthand and report back. General Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of our Defense Department, was also in Europe, meeting with his counterparts and allies on NATO's eastern flank to reassure them, those countries bordering Russia, NATO countries, that we will keep our NATO commitment, the sacred commitment of Article 5. The Vice President Harris is going to be traveling to meet with our allies in Poland and Romania later this week as well. I've made it clear that the United States will share in the responsibility of caring for the refugees so the costs do not fall entirely on the European countries bordering Ukraine. And yesterday I spoke with my counterparts in France, Germany, and the United Kingdom about Russia's escalating violence against Ukraine and the steps that we're going to take together with our allies and partners around the world to respond to this aggression. We are enforcing the most significant package of economic sanctions in history, and it's causing significant damage to Russia's economy. It has caused Russian economy to, frankly, crater. The Russian ruble is now down to 50%, by 50% since Putin's announced his war. 1 ruble is now worth less than 1 American penny. 1 ruble is less than 1 American penny. And preventing Russia's central bank from propping up the ruble and to keep its value up. They're not going to be able to do that now. We cut Russia's largest banks from the international financial system, and it has crippled their ability to do business with the rest of the world. In addition, we're choking off Russia's access to technology like semiconductors that are and sap its economic strength and weaken its military for years to come. Major companies are pulling out of Russia entirely without even being asked, not by us. Over the weekend, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, they all suspended their services in Russia, all of them. Joining a growing list of American and global companies from Ford to Nike to Apple, they've suspended their operations in Russia. The U.S. Stock Exchange has halted trading of many Russian securities. And the private sector is united against Russia's vicious war of choice. The U.S. Department of Justice has assembled a dedicated task force to go after the crimes of Russian oligarchs. And we're joining with our European allies to find and seize their yachts, their luxury apartments, their private jets, and all their ill-begotten gains to make sure that they share in the pain of Putin's war. These, by the way, are giant yachts. You've put some of them in your press. I mean, some of them are, I think I read one was over 400 feet long. I mean, this is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The decision today is not without cost here at home. Putin's war is already hurting American families at the gas pump. Since Putin began his military buildup on Ukrainian borders, just since then, the price of the gas at the pump in America went up 75 cents. And with this action, it's going to go up further. I'm going to do everything I can to minimize Putin's price hike here at home. In coordination with our partners, we've already announced that we're releasing 60 million barrels of oil from our joint oil reserves. Half of that, 30 million, is coming from the United States. And we're taking steps to ensure the reliable supply of global energy. We're also going to keep working with every tool at our disposal to protect American families and businesses. Now, let me say this. To the oil and gas companies and to the finance firms that back them, we understand Putin's war against the people of Ukraine is causing prices to rise. We get that. That's self-evident. But, it's no excuse to exercise excessive price increases or padding profits or any kind of effort to exploit this situation or American consumers, exploit them. Russia's aggression is costing us all, and it's no time for profiteering or price gouging. I want to be clear about what we'll not tolerate, but I also want to acknowledge those firms and oil and gas industries that are pulling out of Russia and joining other businesses that are leading by example. This is a time when we have to do our part and make sure we're not taking advantage. Look, let me be clear about 2 other points. First, it's simply not true that my administration or policies are holding back domestic energy production. That's simply not true. Even amid the pandemic, companies in the United States pumped more oil during my first year in office than they did during my predecessor's first year. We're approaching record levels of oil and gas production in the United States, and we're on track to set a record of oil production next year. In the United States, 90% of onshore oil production takes place on land that isn't owned by the federal government. And of the remaining 10% that occurs on federal land, the oil and gas industry has millions of acres leased. They have 9,000 permits to drill now. They could be drilling right now, yesterday, last week, last year. They have 9,000 to drill onshore that are already approved. So let me be clear. Let me be clear. They are not using them for production now. That's their decision. These are the facts. We should be honest about the facts. Second, this crisis is a stark reminder to protect our economy over the long term, we need to become energy independent. I've had numerous conversations over the last 3 months with our European friends of how they have to wean themselves off of Russian oil. It's just not tenable. It should motivate us to accelerate the transition to clean energy. This is a perspective that our European allies share, and the future where together we can achieve greater independence. Loosening environmental regulations or pulling back clean energy investment will not lower energy prices for families. But transforming our economy to run on electric vehicles powered by clean energy with tax credits to help American families winterize their homes and use less energy, that will help. And if we do what we can, it will mean that no one has to worry about the price of the gas pump in the future. That'll mean tyrants like Putin won't be able to use fossil fuels as weapons against other nations. And it will make America a world leader, manufacturing and exporting clean energy technologies of the future to countries all around the world. This is the goal we should be racing toward. Over the last 2 weeks, the Ukrainian people have inspired the world, and I mean that in a literal sense. They've inspired the world with their bravery, their patriotism, their defiant determination to live free. Putin's war has caused enormous suffering and needless loss of life of women, children, everyone in Ukraine. Both Ukraine and, I might add, Russians. Ukrainian leaders, as well as leaders around the world, have repeatedly called for a ceasefire, for humanitarian relief, for real diplomacy. But Putin seems determined to continue on his murderous path, no matter the cost. Putin's now targeting cities and has been targeting cities and civilians, schools, hospitals, apartment buildings. Last week, he attacked the largest nuclear power plant in Europe with an apparent disregard for the potential of triggering a nuclear meltdown. He has already turned 2 million Ukrainians into refugees. Russia may continue to grind out its advance at a horrible price, but this much is already clear. Ukraine will never be a victory for Putin. Putin may be able to take a city, but he'll never be able to hold the country. And if we do not respond to Putin's assault on global peace and stability today, the cost of freedom and to the American people will be even greater tomorrow. So we're going to continue to support the brave Ukrainian people as they fight for their country. And I call on Congress to pass the $12 billion Ukraine assistance package that I have asked them for of late. Ukrainian people are demonstrating by their physical courage that they are not about to just let Putin take what he wants. That's clear. They'll defend their freedom, their democracy, their lives. And we're going to keep providing security assistance, economic assistance, and humanitarian assistance. We're going to support them against tyranny, oppression, violent acts of subjugation. People everywhere, and I think it's maybe even surprised some of you all, people everywhere are speaking up for freedom. And when the history of this war is written, Putin's war on Ukraine will have left Russia weaker and the rest of the world stronger. May God bless all those heroes in Ukraine. And now I'm off to Texas. Thank you very, very much. I know there's a lot of questions. I know there's a lot of questions, but there's a lot more that has to be made clear, and I'm going to hold on that until we get more information. Thank you. Appreciate it.
President Biden in the Roosevelt Room at the White House announcing the immediate ban on Russian oil imports into the United States. Currently, Russia imports account for about 8% of our consumption here in this country, 600,000 barrels plus every day. That is stopping, and the president warned that defending freedom is going to cost, that gas prices, which have already been soaring in light of the war in Ukraine, will continue to do so. But he said, as for America, quote, "We won't subsidize Putin's war." Let's go to Stephanie Rule, our business correspondent. And Stephanie, the practical effect of this, I mentioned that oil imports from Russia account for just a smaller portion of our consumption here in this country, but it'll pack a punch. And now we're seeing the UK and the EU taking some steps, although not quite as dramatic.
Absolutely, Savannah. And the president hit all the marks he needed to on this speech. Well, we're not going to have a supply issue here. We make an ample amount here in the U.S. As you said, we just use a small portion of Russian oil and gas as opposed to Europe, which uses a whole lot more. But the price is going to be an issue. The United States, the government, we don't set the price. The price is set globally, and we're already seeing prices go up. We don't expect that to change. And the president said it. This is the current price of war. And hitting Russia, cutting off their big economic artery, is the hope that it's going to cause real pain over there. He also reminded us that this is a time when our big oil and natural gas producers here, those big companies, they cannot be price gouging. Expect him to use his bully pulpit to push them that those businesses, of course, they need to make profits, but this is not a time for price gouging. And he reminded the American people this is going to be difficult. We are going to be paying more. But remember, we don't have our soldiers on the line costing their lives, and this is something we're going to be living with for the foreseeable future. It's going to be expensive for the American people, Savannah.
And no question, there was a shot across the bow from the president to those oil companies and the banks, the financial institutions that help them go, to say no price gouging, no profiteering. You have to make a profit. You don't have to pad your profit. So a clear sign from the White House there. Also interesting messaging. The president called it Putin's price hike, of course, laying the blame squarely on the person who started this war, Vladimir Putin. Stephanie, thank you. I want to turn to NBC's Richard Engel, who's on the ground for us in Ukraine's capital city of Kyiv. This is something that many Ukrainians had been asking for. It's not the military action they are hoping for, but it is striking at the heart of Russia's economy. How do you think it'll go over there?
Well, it's going over very well. I can tell you that because this move was anticipated, and Ukrainian officials were already thanking the United States for taking this move, already saying that they fully endorse it. And as you were saying, they want more, and they all specifically want more weapons. Every soldier we speak to, every politician we speak to said that Ukrainian forces are doing well holding back the Russian advance on the ground. So far, the Russian offensive has been fairly inept. They have not been able to take any major cities. But what they want now, in addition to these economic sanctions, is a no-fly zone, or at least more weapon systems to protect from aircraft and incoming missiles. Savannah.
NATO and the U.S. have made clear that no-fly zone is not going to be forthcoming, so we'll continue to watch that as we see the Russians take more and more brutal steps to try to get control of Ukraine. Richard, thank you very much. And again, with the news just out, the president has announced a ban on Russian oil imports into the United States. Up until now, the United States was buying about 637,000 barrels of oil from Russia every day, even during this war. That stops today. The UK has announced steps. The EU has announced steps. We'll continue to watch it. The president laying blame squarely on Putin, calling it a vicious war of choice. We'll have more for you on MSNBC and NBC News Now. This is Savannah Guthrie reporting from New York.